They called my small shop worthless until the highway plan changed everything. The scent of freshly baked bread mingled with the earthy aroma of ground coffee beans, creating a comforting symphony that had become the signature of Clara's little shop. Nestled at the edge of Maplewood Road, her establishment stood as a modest testament to years of hard work and sacrifice. Yet, despite its charm and the warmth it exuded, her siblings never missed an opportunity to remind her of what they perceived as failure. "You're wasting your life in this tiny place," James, the eldest, would say during their infrequent family gatherings. His words carried the weight of authority, though his own ventures had seen more failures than successes. "In this age of megastores and online shopping, who needs a quaint little shop like yours?" Sarah, the middle child, would nod in agreement, her designer scarf perfectly arranged around her neck. "You could be doing so much more, Clara. Look at our cousin Emma, she's making 6 figures selling skincare products online. Meanwhile, you're stuck in this relic of a building." Their words stung more than Clara cared to admit, for they touched upon her deepest insecurities. She would watch them drive away in their expensive cars, leaving behind trails of doubt that lingered long after their visits ended. The truth was, her shop barely broke even some months, and the maintenance costs kept rising. But it wasn't just about the money, it never had been. Every morning, Clara would unlock the wooden door that bore the faded sign Clara's Corner. The bell above it jingled softly, announcing her arrival to rows of carefully curated shelves. Her grandmother's antique cash register sat proudly on the counter, a gift passed down through generations. The shop had been her dream since childhood, when she would spend hours helping her grandmother arrange jars of homemade preserves and hand-knitted scarves. The community around her had changed dramatically over the years. New housing developments sprouted where fields once stood, and chain stores began appearing on every corner. Yet Clara remained, holding on to the belief that there was still value in personal connections and quality goods. Mrs. Henderson from across the street would stop by for her daily newspaper and a chat about her arthritis. Young couples would browse through the selection of locally made crafts, searching for unique gifts. Even Mr. Peterson, the retired schoolteacher, found comfort in spending his mornings reading by the shop's large window. But these moments of connection weren't enough to satisfy her siblings' expectations. They couldn't understand why she refused their offers to sell the property or convert it into something more modern. To them, progress meant bigger, faster, shinier. To Clara, it meant preserving the essence of what made her shop special, the personal touch, the history, the stories woven into every shelf and display. One particularly difficult afternoon, as Clara restocked the spice section, she overheard 2 teenagers discussing plans for the new highway extension. Their voices carried through the open window, filled with excitement about how it would connect their small town to the larger city. She paused, listening intently as they talked about the proposed route, right past her shop. Her heart sank. The last thing she needed was another reason for her siblings to declare her business obsolete. A major highway would surely bring increased traffic and noise, potentially driving away her loyal customers who valued the shop's peaceful atmosphere. Yet, deep down, another part of her wondered if this change might hold unexpected possibilities. That evening, as she closed up shop, Clara noticed something unusual. A man in a suit was examining the exterior of her building, taking notes and occasionally snapping pictures with his phone. When he caught her watching, he approached with a polite smile. "Excuse me, are you the owner of this property?" he asked, extending a business card. She accepted it warily, recognizing the logo of a prominent development company. "Yes, I am. Is there something I can help you with?" "I'm conducting preliminary assessments for the highway project," he explained. "Your location is quite strategic given the proposed route. I wonder if we might discuss potential opportunities for your business." Clara felt a mixture of apprehension and curiosity stirring within her. Opportunities? She had spent so long defending her shop against accusations of irrelevance that the concept seemed almost foreign. As she locked the door behind her, she realized that perhaps the winds of change blowing through Maplewood Road might carry something other than destruction. The following weeks brought an influx of visitors to Clara's Corner that she hadn't experienced in years. Some were curious locals wanting to see the shop that might soon be affected by the highway expansion. Others were developers and real estate agents, each bearing promises of lucrative deals and bright futures elsewhere. Through it all, Clara maintained her routine, serving customers with the same gentle smile while wrestling with growing uncertainty about her future. During one particularly busy morning, an elderly woman entered the shop, her eyes scanning the familiar surroundings with evident nostalgia. "I remember when your grandmother ran this place," she said, running her fingers along a shelf of handmade candles. "Back then, people said she was crazy to open a shop way out here. Said it would never last." Clara paused, her hands full of fresh produce deliveries. "What happened?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "The old road got paved, more houses went up, and suddenly everyone wanted to shop here. Your grandmother didn't change a thing, just kept doing what she loved. And look where you are now, decades later." The woman's words lingered in Clara's mind long after she left. They echoed alongside the memories of her siblings' dismissive comments and the developer's tempting offers. For the first time, she began to wonder if the worth of her shop wasn't defined by its size or profit margins, but by something far more profound: the stories it held, the lives it touched, and the legacy it represented. As autumn painted the trees in vibrant hues, Clara found herself standing before her shop late one evening, staring at the worn sign above the door. The highway project loomed closer, bringing with it both threats and possibilities. Her siblings continued their campaign of persuasion, sending articles about successful entrepreneurs and statistics about declining small businesses. Yet instead of feeling defeated, Clara felt something stir within her, a determination to prove that worth couldn't be measured solely by conventional standards. Inside the shop, the old grandfather clock struck 8, its chimes resonating through the quiet space. Clara moved through the aisles, straightening displays and dusting shelves as she had done countless times before. But tonight, each familiar task felt different, infused with new meaning. The cracked tile near the entrance where little Tommy had taken his first steps while his mother shopped. The scuff marks on the wooden floor from years of customers browsing and chatting. The faded photographs on the wall showing generations of families who had passed through these doors. She remembered the winter storm 3 years ago when power lines had fallen throughout the neighborhood. Her shop had become a refuge, offering warmth, hot drinks, and basic supplies to those stranded by the weather. How many chain stores would have opened their doors in such conditions? How many online retailers could provide comfort and community when it was needed most? The sound of footsteps outside interrupted her thoughts. Peering through the window, she saw Mr. Peterson approaching, bundled in his heavy coat. He often stayed late, especially during colder months, preferring the shop's cozy atmosphere to his empty house. Tonight, however, he looked unusually agitated. "Clara, you need to hear this," he said, brushing snow from his shoulders. From his bag, he pulled several documents, copies of town council meeting minutes and planning commission reports. "They're considering routing the highway closer to residential areas than originally planned. It could mean..." His voice trailed off, but Clara understood the implications. The new route might bring even more disruption than anticipated, potentially cutting off access to her shop entirely. Yet as she studied the maps and proposals, another detail caught her attention. The proposed interchange location placed her shop at a prime position, visible to thousands of daily commuters. For days afterward, Clara wrestled with conflicting emotions. Fear of losing everything battled with hope for transformation. She spent hours poring over financial records, trying to imagine how she might adapt without losing the soul of her business. Late nights became a blur of spreadsheets and brainstorming sessions, punctuated by early morning arrivals to prepare for another day of service. Her regular customers noticed the change. Mrs. Henderson commented on the new display of local artwork near the register. Young parents whispered about the expanded selection of eco-friendly products. Even the teenagers who hung out by the window seemed intrigued by the subtle shifts in inventory and arrangement. Then came the letter from the State Transportation Department, an official notice of eminent domain proceedings. Though expected, its arrival felt like a physical blow. Clara sat at her grandmother's desk, tracing the carved initials of family members who had worked here before her. The offer was fair, perhaps even generous, but accepting it would mean betraying everything she had built. Her siblings' reactions were predictable. "This is your chance, Clara," James declared during an unscheduled visit. "Take the money and invest in something with real potential." Sarah nodded enthusiastically, already sketching plans for what Clara should do next. Their certainty grated against her growing resolve. On a crisp November morning, as golden light streamed through the shop windows, Clara made a decision. She would fight, not just to keep her shop, but to redefine its purpose in this changing landscape. Drawing inspiration from her grandmother's journals, she began drafting proposals for integrating modern elements while preserving the shop's character. Solar panels could power the building. An online presence could complement the physical space. Community workshops could attract new patrons while maintaining connections with existing ones. Word spread quickly about Clara's intentions. Local artists offered to showcase their work. Farmers proposed expanding the selection of fresh produce. Even former customers who had drifted away expressed interest in supporting the revitalization effort. Each endorsement strengthened her resolve, weaving a safety net of community support beneath her ambitious plans. Yet the battle wasn't only external. Clara faced sleepless nights questioning whether she was being foolishly sentimental or courageously visionary. Memories of her parents' sacrifices flooded her mind, their tireless work to maintain the family home, their unwavering faith in education despite financial constraints. Had they known how their children would view success differently? Would they understand why she clung to this particular dream? December arrived with its usual flurry of holiday preparations. Clara decorated the shop with garlands and twinkling lights, creating a festive atmosphere that drew even casual passers-by inside. One afternoon, as she arranged a display of handcrafted ornaments, she noticed a young couple lingering near the book section. They reminded her of herself and her husband when they were first dating, spending hours exploring the shop together. "Do you think we could have something like this someday?" the young woman asked her partner, gesturing to the cozy reading nook by the window. Her companion smiled, pulling her closer. Clara turned away, blinking back unexpected tears. These moments, the quiet exchanges, the shared smiles, the dreams nurtured within these walls, they were what truly mattered. The transportation department scheduled a public hearing for early January, giving Clara mere weeks to present her case. She gathered testimonials from loyal customers, compiled financial projections demonstrating viability, and created visual presentations showcasing her vision for the shop's future. Friends and neighbors volunteered to speak on her behalf, their collective voice forming a powerful chorus of support. On the eve of the hearing, Clara stood alone in her shop, surrounded by evidence of 40 years of devotion. The air smelled of pine needles and cinnamon, remnants of Christmas celebrations just past. Outside, the world slept, oblivious to the pivotal moment awaiting her tomorrow. Taking a deep breath, she walked through each aisle, touching familiar surfaces and whispering thanks to those who had shaped this space through their presence. When morning came, the courtroom buzzed with anticipation. Developers, government officials, concerned citizens, all gathered to determine the fate of Clara's Corner and several other properties along the proposed route. As Clara took her seat, she noticed faces she recognized from the shop, Mrs. Henderson clutching her cane, Mr. Peterson adjusting his glasses, even the young couple from December sitting attentively in the back row. Her siblings were there too, positioned strategically near influential figures they hoped would sway the decision. James gave her a tight smile, while Sarah checked her phone compulsively. Their presence served as a reminder of everything she had endured, the doubts, the criticisms, the pressure to conform to someone else's definition of success. When called to speak, Clara rose steadily, her heart pounding but her voice clear. She began not with numbers or projections, but with a story, one that started generations ago with her grandmother's dream and continued through every customer who had ever crossed her threshold. She spoke of resilience and adaptation, of honoring the past while embracing the future. As she presented her vision for transforming Clara's Corner into a hybrid space combining traditional retail with community resources and sustainable practices, she watched expressions change around the room. The developers leaned forward, intrigued by innovative ideas they hadn't considered. Town officials nodded approvingly at solutions addressing local concerns about traffic and environmental impact. Most telling were the reactions of her siblings, James's skeptical frown softening into thoughtful consideration, Sarah's constant phone checking ceasing altogether as she listened intently. Hours later, as deliberations continued behind closed doors, Clara returned to her shop. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across familiar shelves, illuminating dust motes dancing in the golden light. She didn't know what the final decision would be, but for the first time, she felt peace regardless of the outcome. Her shop had always been more than bricks and mortar. It was a living testament to values worth fighting for. Customers drifted in throughout the day, sensing the significance of this moment. Some brought flowers, others shared stories of how the shop had touched their lives. By evening, the small space overflowed with people and goodwill, creating a scene that embodied everything Clara had struggled to preserve. As darkness fell, Clara locked up later than usual, allowing herself one last walk through the aisles before heading home. The old grandfather clock chimed midnight, marking the beginning of a new day, and perhaps a new chapter for Clara's corner. Outside, the stars glittered cold and distant, yet somehow closer than before, as if acknowledging the quiet revolution taking shape beneath their watchful gaze. Tomorrow would bring answers, challenges, and undoubtedly more battles to fight. But tonight, surrounded by evidence of love, loyalty, and shared history, Clara understood that worth couldn't be measured in square footage or profit margins. It resided in the hearts of those who believed, in traditions honored, in communities strengthened, in dreams pursued against all odds. And somewhere in the distance, the rumble of construction equipment preparing for the highway's arrival seemed less threatening, more like the opening notes of a symphony yet to be composed. The next morning, Clara arrived at the town hall early, her heart heavy yet hopeful. The board's decision would be announced at noon, and the air buzzed with anticipation. As she entered the room, she was greeted by a sea of familiar faces, neighbors, friends, and even some former customers she hadn't seen in years. Her siblings sat quietly now, their expressions unreadable. When the chairman finally spoke, his voice rang clear. After careful consideration, we have decided to adjust the highway route slightly. Clara's corner will remain intact. Gasps filled the room, followed by applause so thunderous it seemed the walls might shake. Clara exhaled deeply, tears streaming down her face as strangers hugged her and whispered words of congratulations. James approached hesitantly, his usual confidence replaced by something softer. "You did it," he said simply, his tone carrying traces of admiration, and perhaps regret. Sarah nodded, offering a rare smile that felt genuine. In the days that followed, Clara threw herself into transforming her shop. With community support pouring in, she added solar panels, expanded local artisan goods, and hosted workshops. The shop thrived, not just surviving but evolving into something extraordinary. One evening, as Clara stood outside watching the first cars pass on the newly constructed highway nearby, she realized how close she had come to losing everything. Yet here she stood, with her legacy preserved and her spirit unbroken. Above her, the sign still read Clara's Corner, though now it gleamed freshly painted, a symbol of resilience. Her siblings visited less often now, but when they did, their words carried newfound respect. They no longer called her shop worthless, instead, they marveled at its transformation. "And Clara?" She smiled, knowing this wasn't just her victory, it belonged to everyone who believed in the power of connection, history, and heart. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light over Maplewood Road, Clara stepped back inside her shop. The bell above the door jingled softly, echoing through the space she loved. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she knew one thing for certain: Clara's Corner would always stand, not because it was perfect, but because it mattered.